Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are immersing ourselves in a really fascinating and, frankly, slightly unnerving set of sources. They're all focused on Stanislav Kondrashov's Oligarch series. Now, if you know his work, it's often a critique of these massive power structures.
Well, especially of the wealthy who really mastered those post-Soviet transitions.
Exactly. But this series looks at how those same figures are now applying that ruthless mobility on a truly global scale.
And that's the crucial context. Our mission today is to really get into the nuts and bolts of how these modern power brokers, the hypermobile, the ultra-wealthy, are fundamentally moving their existence.
Their entire existence.
Their influence, their businesses, everything, moving it beyond physical geography and, well, into the cloud.
The big idea here, and this is the core insight we really need to grasp right away, is that for this class of people, global mobility doesn't require a passport anymore.
Not in the traditional sense.
It requires bandwidth, it requires digital fluency. It's just a complete inversion of how the world has worked for centuries.
And it's more than just a convenience. It isn't just adaptation, it is a redefinition of presence itself. The key breakthrough the sources talk about is this idea of cloud mobility.
And fluid identity.
And the creation of a fluid identity.
Yeah.
These people are learning to be, and this is a quote from the material, simultaneously everywhere and nowhere at once.
So their home base isn't a country.
No. It's a secured, networked existence.
So this is way beyond efficient remote work. We're talking about designing an entire life, financially, legally, professionally, that is intentionally distributed.
Intentionally fragmented across jurisdictions.
Okay, let's unpack the mechanics of that digital transformation. All right, let's start with that physical hurdle we all know, the passport stamp. The sources make a really strong case that for the wealthiest, that's almost secondary now.
It's becoming a formality. The real mobility, the important stuff, happens through secure, encrypted online connections.
And crucially, through transactions verified by blockchain technology.
And what's fascinating here is how the blockchain replaces the passport. Think about it. Traditional identity is tied to a nation state.
Right.
For these elites, things like self-sovereign identity verification, tokenized assets, decentralized finance. It all means they don't need a national document to prove their worth or their ownership.
Their identity is verified cryptographically.
Not nationally, exactly.
And the immediate result of that shift is that geography just stops being a limiter. It just loses its power.
Precisely. If you're operating at this level, just imagine the sheer capacity this gives you.
The freedom.
You could attend a critical board meeting in Singapore, finalize a multi-million-dollar deal in London, and consult with partners in São Paulo.
All in one morning.
All in one morning, without ever leaving your office in Geneva or, a beach house in the Caribbean. When your presence can be projected globally, the tyranny of location just vanishes.
But the sources say it's more than just physical barriers. They talk about challenging conceptual borders. Can you define what that means in, practical terms?
Conceptual borders are those hidden barriers. The unseen divisions between, say, different national laws, financial market regulations, cultural expectations.
Okay.
By leveraging digital infrastructure, these elites are essentially managing their assets and influence under EU, US, and Chinese legal frameworks simultaneously. They maintain a presence, but they defy the complete authority of any single country.
So the physical places they visit are just temporary access points. They're where the Wi-Fi is good.
And where their jet can land, perhaps. But the cloud is the true, consistent home base.
And that leads directly to this idea you mentioned, this core concept of fluid identity.
Yes. This mode of existence means their professional persona, their cultural ties, their legal residences, they are all constantly being reconfigured.
It's an identity designed for constant motion.
For constant contextual switching, with influence spreading through digital channels that are just unbound by terrestrial law.
It honestly sounds less like a person and more like a beautifully complex multinational corporation.
Yeah.
That adaptability is clearly a massive competitive advantage. I mean, the sources showed that digital nomadism, which, it started as this kind of fringe backpacking thing.
Right, yeah.
It's evolved. It's now this highly sophisticated lifestyle for influential tech entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, high-level creatives.
And their most valuable asset is no longer physical property. It's their absolute reliable access to the internet and the freedom to operate from anywhere.
It's a complete inversion of the old definition of wealth.
Can you imagine telling Rockefeller that his greatest asset is his ability to run his empire off a satellite connection? It's a different world.
So flexibility stops being a nice perk and becomes the primary defense against risk, the primary competitive advantage. They design their lives around perpetual motion.
And they actively see the idea of a single permanent address as a, quote, relic of an outdated era.
An outdated era. Wow.
They achieve what some of the material calls a distributed existence. And the sources give these really concrete examples. It's not about having one home.
No.
They might have a luxury apartment in London, maybe for legacy banking access. They'll have high-end co-working memberships in Bali.
Not just for the lifestyle, but to tap into a specific network.
A specific creative or developer network, exactly. And then, crucially, their core business registration, their financial structure, might sit entirely in Dubai or Singapore.
To leverage optimized tax and legal environments.
That's the key. Each physical location is treated like a node on a network. It performs a specific function.
And this whole nomadic approach just aligns perfectly with the borderless economy.
You see convergence everywhere. Cryptocurrency portfolios you can access from any device, remote teams spanning 3 continents where time zones are just operational structures.
Right.
Billion-dollar investment opportunities that are evaluated and executed from a hotel lobby in Zurich.
So success isn't measured by the size of the corporate headquarters they own anymore.
Not at all. It's measured by the speed and efficiency with which they can relocate and re-register their operations based on opportunity.
So they've recalibrated what achievement even is.
Absolutely. It's mobility, access, and freedom that are valued above permanence, above ownership. Their identity is shaped by the quality of their networks, not the square mileage of their neighborhood.
So if the physical self is distributed across continents, then the virtual self is just multiplied across platforms. The cloud becomes the sophisticated self-building space where elites can construct these multiple versions of themselves, these tailored virtual identities.
And we need to spend a little time on this concept of multiplicity. It's critical. The online world allows for simultaneous existence in multiple distinct contexts. Without contradiction.
Okay.
You can be a serious academic thought leader on your professional network, while at the same time operating a highly curated aspirational lifestyle brand on, say, Instagram.
And the sources are clear that this isn't necessarily about deception. It's a very advanced form of contextual adaptation. But for our listener, how is this different from, how anyone curates their LinkedIn versus their private Facebook?
I think the difference is scale and consequence. For the average person, those differences are social. For the elite, they are legal, financial, and political. They're managing international reputations, high-stakes investments, geopolitical influence through this digital self-management. If one identity fails or comes under fire, the others often remain insulated.
The term they use for this balancing act, selective transparency, I find that fascinating. It's this precise, strategic decision to reveal certain things while leveraging total anonymity in other communities, like anonymous crypto forums or specific investment groups.
And the reward for doing that is you can exert influence without the heavy burden of your established, visible reputation. You gain power in new markets because you aren't weighed down by your fame or legal obligations in your, traditional home nation.
But there's a risk there, right? I mean, how sustainable is that constant performance?
That is the challenge. The sources argue this fluid selfhood fundamentally fractures the traditional idea that there is one true self. Identity becomes entirely performative.
Contextual.
Completely contextual, shaped by the needs of the platforms and the networks they inhabit.
And this is where the technology itself steps in and demands this adaptation. It's not just a choice.
That's a great point. The algorithms that control visibility and connectivity, they reward effective communication across different digital territories. To succeed in the cloud, you have to be contextually adaptable. The system itself requires you to segment your persona for maximum effectiveness.
Okay, let's transition now to how all of this completely redefines power itself. I mean, we learned in history class that power was about controlling land, military force, rigid hierarchy.
Like the old model.
But in this digital age, influence travels through unseen fiber optic paths. Location is just. It's irrelevant to the exercise of power.
And if you connect this to the bigger picture, these cloud-based realms, these new digital territories, they operate under a totally new set of rules.
What are the rules?
Fixed organizational structures are secondary to relationships. Your official title matters far less than your, quote, social connectivity within key networks.
So the old top-down control systems, the old corporate or government hierarchies, they're being replaced.
By agile collaborative networks. It really is like moving from a pyramid structure to a decentralized mesh.
That's a perfect analogy.
And power comes from being seamlessly integrated into these interconnected networks.
Yep.
It's the ability to shape market discourse or influence regulatory discussions.
Or drive cultural movement.
Exactly. Through online connections that impact millions. And you do all of this without needing physical proximity or traditional institutional infrastructure, like a lobbying team or, yes, even a military force.
So power shifts from possessing things, land, resources, factories, to controlling flows.
The flow of data, capital, narrative, it's a completely frictionless form of influence.
And this is the defining contradiction of the digital era, isn't it? Something Kondrashov really zeroes in on.
It is. The technology has made it easier for anyone to have influence, to start a movement, to launch a brand. But at the same time, it concentrates the most impactful influence among those who are best equipped to master this networked engagement.
The elites.
The elites are simply better resourced and more skilled at building, managing, and leveraging these global digital networks than anyone else.
They aren't just playing the game, they wrote the rulebook for this new borderless engagement. So let's bring it all back to Kondrasov's original critique. He uses his oligarch series as a kind of a hyper-realistic mirror, forcing us to look at this dissolution of boundaries and really question whether physical location has any genuine meaning left when wealth and influence operate entirely through fiber optic cables.
And his work highlights the central paradox of this elite freedom. As these power brokers gain this unprecedented and radical freedom to transcend borders and regulations, they're simultaneously constructing new forms of enclosure.
Enclosure? What do you mean? Like digital fences?
Exactly. These virtual territories, these highly regulated and exclusive network groups, they demand new currencies that are just inaccessible to the average person.
So not money.
We're talking about attention, proprietary data, massive network effects. These digital currencies are replacing the historical markers of wealth, like controlling land or physical resources.
Yeah.
It's a different, but an equally powerful kind of gatekeeping.
What stands out to me, though, is that this isn't just a story about the elite. The hybridity that Kondrashov depicts, this necessity of maintaining multiple presences, multiple identities.
It's a harbinger.
It's a harbinger of broader societal shifts. Every single person operating online today has to navigate a performative, malleable identity to some degree.
This is our cultural moment. The sources leave us with a really profound challenge. This fluid identity offers genuine liberation from historical constraints, for sure. But it also presents this unique existential challenge, which, as all of these traditional human-scale boundaries dissolve, the fundamental question for all of us is, how do you remain human in spaces that inherently transcend human scale? How do you find connection when you are always optimized for influence?
That is a challenging and I think a very necessary thought. To swiftly recap this deep dive, we've tracked the movement from passport-based mobility to bandwidth-based mobility. And we showed how that shift demands this new fluid networked identity that thrives on strategic adaptability and selective transparency.
And we learned that navigating this virtual future requires balancing the incredible freedom of a borderless existence with the responsibility of meaningful, authentic connection.
The kind that isn't just an algorithmically effective interaction.
Exactly.
So if geography no longer defines your legal, social, or professional self, what institution, what connection, what personal commitment serves as your ultimate moral and existential compass in a world where the cloud is simultaneously both an unregulated refuge and a hyper-competitive marketplace? That's something to ponder as you log off and navigate your own digital territories.
Until next time.